Some great job numbers came in this month. Things are starting to look up. The left, of course, hates that. Plus, statue toppling ringleader arrested in D.C. Mount Rushmore is now racist. Ghislaine Maxwell is in custody, Jeffrey Epstein's alleged madam. And your mission this Independence Day, should you choose to accept it. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everyone. Great to have you here with me. Our last live show before the Independence Day holiday, so thank you so much for being here. And if you missed any of the shows, this weekend's a great time to catch up on any of the podcasts and also to share them with friends. Just going to put that out there. And also make sure you tune into bucksexton.com. You check it out, add it to your website's favorite list. Let's get into what's happening in the country right now. We had some good jobs numbers today. Now, I understand this is in the context of an economy that has taken a beating for months now. We had 4.8 million jobs added, unemployment rate down to 11.1%. So it's not, oh, things are great. Oh, we can, just rest on our laurels now or hang out. Of course not. You still have tens of millions of jobs that have been lost across the country. We got a lot of work to do. But the work has to start now. Things have got to start going at this point if we're going to be in a position to not only bring the American people out of this misery, which is more than just economic misery, right? What we've been through as a country with the lockdowns and the panic and the despair and the loss of jobs and the separation from each other, all of that, right? That has been really a freeze, not just of the economy, but of American life as we know it. It's like we've all been in some kind of prison sentence. And that's why I think the term lockdown is, in fact, so useful here. Lockdown is what happens when they decide everyone has to stay in their cells in a prison. That's really what we've been through. We have been through this. And Democrats are showing us exactly who they are and what they're all about at this moment, because just when we start to feel like maybe the end of this madness and this pain is getting closer. I'm not saying it's next month or next week or anything like that, but we are making our way through this challenge. And that's what those jobs numbers are showing us, that people are starting to go back, starting to live their lives again. And the panic and fear narrative of the Democrats is starting to break. Here's what I want to say to you. I want to be very clear about this. Keep the pressure on by living your life as much as you can, as fully as you can, within your personal risk tolerance, given this virus that is still out there. But don't listen to those who have been wrong over and over again. America is getting through this. No second lockdown, no way. Not okay, not allowed, not a good idea, and not being pushed by people who have the best interests of the country at heart. Not being pushed by those who really want to see things get better right now. No, those who are pushing for lockdowns again are the same people who are justifying the mass mobilization of the Democrat base in the streets, the riots, the protesters, all the stuff that's been happening. That was okay. That was necessary, you see, because it was about power for Democrats. But now they want to tell us, oh, no, younger people are spreading this virus faster and faster to each other in some parts of the country. Oh, wait, the hospitals are overwhelmed. No, they're not. There's not a single hospital yet that has been overwhelmed. And also, there is no way through this virus that does not involve risk and does not involve losses, including lockdown, mind you. One of, I think, the false beliefs that has become ingrained in so many people's minds during this whole process is, well, we'll be safe if we lock down. That's a lie. That's a lie. It's not like the universal lockdown policy prevented people from continuing to get sick with this. All it means is that there are more people who are suffering from not getting cancer screenings, from not being able to see loved ones, from getting fatter and weaker and, less able to handle all viruses, including this virus, because their immune system is suppressed, less time in the sun, less time in fresh air, all of these things. We've been learning these lessons. Democrats want to cast this all out now. They are terrified. Let's be very clear about this. The Democrat Party is terrified at the prospect of a renewed, happy, healthy America before this election. Terrified. They don't want it. They don't want it because the whole plan here is that Joe Biden, the reason they've put him forward as the candidate is Joe Biden stands in as a return to normal. Oh, Joe Biden's been in politics for over 40 years. We all know Joe Biden. It's just Joe Biden, guys. Come on. Vote Joe Biden and all of a sudden things will... Never mind that the radical left will be calling the shots with Biden like he's some little puppet, like a little marionette, pulling the strings on Biden all the time. Forget about that. That's, of course, not going to be the narrative, but that's the truth. If things get better, though, it turns into who do you really want to make decisions about the future of this country? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Who is more likely to make decisions that will help your business, that will make it easier for you to pay your bills and the mortgage, that won't allow us to get drawn into stupid wars that we don't need to be fighting? We got a record with Trump, and we've got a record with Biden from the Obama administration, as well as being a deeply unremarkable machine politician as a senator. And it's not comparable. So this right now, this moment, you see, this is a pivot point that we're going through. I've seen all the numbers in Texas and Florida and Arizona. If they want to limit some mass gatherings because they don't want the hospitals to get overwhelmed anywhere, I can understand that. But no lockdown. No stay in your home or else. No end to business. No, shutdowns of parks and beaches. The people that are doing that, I mean, the fact that California is shutting down beaches is crazy. We've already learned. We've already been through this lesson. We have run this experiment, but the Democrats, the libs, they want to forget what the results were. They think that we will forget that they chased people for jogging alone on a beach in the open air in the sunshine. They would deploy cops to stop that, while also not having any problem whatsoever with thousands and thousands of people together, close proximity, screaming and yelling and right on top of each other for hours and hours and hours. That was okay. That was necessary because wokeness, because social justice demanded it. De Blasio, in fact, talked about it in New York in the context of this city where I'm currently sitting. And here's what he said about the comparison between, for example, why you can't go to church. You couldn't go to church. Can't have religious services. But you can definitely have the protest. Oh, sure. Play clip 15, please.
Treatment, essentially saying that you treated the protesters who were on the streets differently than the religious gatherings that were on the streets. Your reaction?
No, just wrong. We worked with the religious leadership of this city for months. Cardinal Dolan in the Catholic Church and so many other religious leaders who were in full agreement that it was not time to bring back religious services because of the danger it would cause to their congregants. The protests were an entirely different reality, a national phenomenon that was not something that the government could just say, go away. It's something that really came from the grassroots and obviously had profound meaning, and we're all acting on the meaning of those protests. But it's really apples and oranges. Our religious leaders were the first to say it was not time to bring back services. Now we're doing it carefully, smartly. So I think that decision profoundly misses what the very religious institutions themselves were saying.
Oh, no, you slimy liar, de Blasio. Not going to work today, not on my watch. I don't care what a few religious leaders said to you or you claim they said to you. You were shutting down funerals. You were shutting down people in open air who wanted to engage in religious service outdoors. You were locking kids out of playgrounds, actually using city resources and officials to lock down playgrounds. Can't have kids out there playing in open air. The same week that you had these protesters marching around. Oh, it was a national phenomenon. We couldn't have stopped that. What he's saying is important to the Democrats and the left. These idiot rabble-rousers out there saying, yeah, that's right, we're going to change society, it's a revolution. Too important. He just told you. He told it to your face. You had a family member who died from COVID? Sorry, no funeral for you. But these protesters who are gyrating their behinds in front of police on video and saying cops don't have fancy degrees like they do. Yeah, everyone's real impressed with your gender studies degree from Wellesley. Sure. Oh yeah, you're all so smart. One great thing about all this is it shows us what a joke higher education has really become. You have the democratization of information now with the internet where you can learn so much, teach yourself so much more than ever before, and it's all right there for you. And the autodidacts are rising, people who teach themselves. It becomes more apparent that those who want to read, want to learn, want to understand, just have a better skill set than those who got a fancy degree. I spent $60,000 a year going to American University. Look at me. Who cares? Who cares? De Blasio is just telling you, though, to your face. And the same thing with Newsom. And the same. I'm happy to see Lieutenant Governor of Texas has said, look, we're not listening to Fauci anymore. This is crap. You know, they want to slow down bars a little bit. I get it, right? They don't want to be in a position where the hospitals get overwhelmed. But we are cycling through this process now. There is no other way. People will be getting infected. We're all taking risks. Every time I go to the store in New York, every time I'm outside, I'm constantly interacting with people. There are risks. That's just the way it's going to be. So we can either have America start to come back, or we can just keep locking America in the closet and saying, shut up, don't ask any questions. Well, you can come out when there's a cure. And they're not doing it for your health because people are going to get sick anyway. And the lockdown data from Europe and the lockdown data from around the world shows that there's no direct correlation between the severity of lockdown, between the compliance of mask wearing, and a much better outcome from all of this, right? There's just the data doesn't support it. Democrats want to do this because it's now or never for them, and they know it. An America that feels like it's coming back and that it's getting through this, and perhaps even a vaccine is getting to be within reach, but we've already been out there increasing herd immunity, understanding more about this disease, living our lives, opening our schools, which must happen this fall. Must. That's an America that's going to have a clear head, at least enough of it will, to make the right decision this fall. And that terrifies, absolutely terrifies Democrats. Oh, they are rooting against the country. There's no question about it. They are rooting against economic recovery. They are rooting against freedom for all people that have been under these just completely capricious lockdowns. We have to fight back. They want you to despair. They want you to give up. We're not going to allow that to happen. Not on my watch, team, and not on yours. Working from home is driving up one of the worst kinds of cybercrime out there, home title theft. Look, we're doing it all from home these days. Meal deliveries, working, all kinds of stuff. You see, what the bad guys want to do is take your home's title and use it to take out loans against your home. The FBI is trying to warn people about this, but you have to protect your home yourself from cyber thieves. What the bad guys do is find your home's title online, forge your signature, and pretend you sold your home to them. Banks, insurance, and basic identity theft services don't protect you. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title. Protect your home now. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. And use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection to help you get through this crisis. That's code BUCK at HometitleLock.com. Again, protect your home from cyber thieves at HometitleLock.com. Everyone needs to understand something. I was talking about the double standard before between what Democrat political leaders have done with the lockdowns against the protesters versus all kinds of other things, particularly religious services, but general freedoms. And you need to remember that the lockdown libs love this double standard. They revel in this double standard. It is a vicious blow to their opponents' morale. That's us. Democrats like Newsom and Cuomo can take away all your rights on a whim while allowing their mobilized base to take over the streets. So as much fun as it is to point out the double standard, it's already established. It's already established. We don't have to put this in their faces anymore because they don't care. They're like, yeah, that's right. We did it. What are you going to do about it, Republicans? They're not really hiding from this. They like to wield power in support of their political aspirations in this way. That is the plan. So now we get to what the president's going to try to do to get things going again. Speaking about the economy today, here's what he said. Play clip 9.
One thing that's happening, and you see it with the numbers, and we have big numbers coming out. Hopefully they're going to be good. They're very important. But when you see what's happening with jobs, when you see that we're doing record numbers of jobs in the history of our country, we've never created more jobs than what we did last month, that last month number. Retail sales are at a record number, especially when you talk about increase. When you look at percentage increase, nobody's ever seen anything like it. So we're headed back in a very strong fashion with a V. And I think we're going to be very good with the coronavirus. I think that at some point that's going to sort of just disappear, I hope.
You still believe so? Disappear?
Well, I do. Yeah, sure, at some point. And I think we're going to have a vaccine very soon, too.
Notice that they'll all fix it on he said it'll just disappear. He's right that at some point it will just disappear. At least this version, this strain of the virus. Because we're going to continue to see people getting infected. There'll be herd immunity, or we're either going to get to herd immunity or a vaccine for this strain of virus. That is true. That is what we know about epidemiology. If there are mutations, then it's a possibility that it could come back cyclically, like say influenza. But it is likely the mutations would make it less lethal. But notice how all of a sudden you have the panic porn from the media. Oh my gosh, look at what's going on here. Look at these numbers. We're setting a record for cases. If we're setting a record for cases and it's overwhelmingly younger people who are infected and clearing the virus quickly, what exactly are we panicking about? They never ask this question. They say, a record number of cases, I would also point out that in Europe, they've seemed to get this under control. There's still some fatalities that are going on there. People are still getting this, but it's much, much lower numbers. You don't have a lockdown, and you don't have widespread masking in any major European country right now. When I say widespread, more than 50% of the population. If 20% of the population is masking, that's not mass masking, right? So how are they able to handle this? You know, we used to look at the rest of the world, and this was always a way to beat up on Trump. That's what they would say. And now we actually look at a per capita number, and you see that America's response to COVID-19 is stronger than every major Western European country, with the exception of Germany, and much better than Spain, than Italy, than the UK. Much better. So we now forget about it, right? This is just the media does the destruction it can while it can for partisan ends, and then just moves on to a different topic, right? They call in the artillery strike on the civilians. Too bad. Oh, whoops, we got the wrong. And then they just move along and they just fire artillery at the next target. They don't care. It's reckless. We cannot allow these people to seize the narrative back in this country. And I don't know what is wrong with the Drudge Report, and I know that this has just become it's a bee in my bonnet, so to speak. This is a burr in my saddle. I don't know why Drudge decided to just turn against not Trump, but just conservatism. Every day I turn on the Drudge. Oh, we're all going to die. I mean, the panic on the Drudge Report is nuts.
I've already had masks, and I want a mask. And if I'm near people, you were tested, right, just now? And everybody that's around me as president gets tested. That's like standard. And I keep distances. I'm, supposed to keep a distance, and I keep distances. But if I needed a mask, if I was in a crowd, a lot of people and everything else, I'd wear them. I have no problem with a mask at all. And I tell people I have a different kind of a life. Being president, you have a little bit of a different life. You're not that often. I don't think it makes sense when you walk up. I see Biden walking up on a stage where there's nobody around, and the audience is 25, 30, 40 feet away. Not too much of an audience either, by the way. And he's speaking, and he has a mask on, and you can't even understand what he's saying, or he takes it off up there. When there's nobody around, I don't see any reason to be wearing it. But no, I have no objection to masks whatsoever.
This is becoming such a bizarre argument that we have to have around masks. And Trump is spot on here. The guidance has never been to always wear a mask. Oh, it's crazy. Mask outdoors, the science says unnecessary. Okay? Unnecessary. But we're told, oh my gosh, it's become this symbol to people. It's become a symbol. And no one's saying, if you want to protect yourself, wear a mask, right? If you think it's going to protect you. I'll get into in a second what the science actually does say about this, because I've been reading studies about it, actual real peer-reviewed studies and CDC studies from the past. There's a reason why the World Health Organization was like, look, wearing a mask probably isn't going to do that much here. There's a reason, friends, but I'll get to that in a moment. First, it's always been masks are situational, right? No one is going to tell healthcare personnel, don't wear a mask. EMTs don't wear a mask. Of course, right? They're in a higher risk both of transmission and of getting, of having it transmitted to them and transmitting it to someone else. Infection and infected. And yet we're told that everybody now has to have these mask mandates. In West Hollywood, they're going to start fining people. I think it's $300 the first offense, going all the way up to a few $1,000s for not wearing a mask in public. Not in restaurants, not indoors, in public. This is becoming the MAGA hat of the left. Don't you see it? Now, people will take this out of context. It's like, oh, Buck is saying masks don't work and are bad. And when I go to a store, they demand that I wear a mask. Indoors, I wear a mask. I'm not a mask truther. I'm not sitting around here. But to wear a mask outside all the time, to wear a mask when there's no one within 20 feet of me is insane. It's insane. And that's now what people are talking about, outdoor mask mandates. It's nuts. There's no basis for this other than the mask is now a symbol. It's a symbol of a sick country. It's a symbol of the libs saying, we believe in science. And also a reminder to everybody else, be afraid. Things aren't normal. Those are the optics of outdoor mask wearing. That's just the truth. Okay. And of course, as we know, the protesters, a lot of them wearing masks, so they couldn't be identified by the cops when they were breaking stuff or looting stores. Masks had a little twofer there, a little extra benefit for them. And, I'm just going to say this too. And everyone's going to go, oh my gosh. The science of masking, when we're talking now, let's be clear. I'll be very clear here. So, when the losers from Media Matters, the incels of the left over at Media Matters are like, oh, look what this guy said. Who cares? I want to be very clear that, let me be clear. That was a little bit of an Obama thing there. But I want to be very clear. But when you're talking about a mask that has a respirator and can filter down to a certain level of micron, right, which means we're talking about the very, very, very small particles. Obviously, you can't see them. In the case of viruses, you need an electron microscope to see them. But some masks that are either a full covering, right? If you actually have a plastic sheet and a contained a plastic guard and a contained breathing unit, yeah, nothing is really getting in, right? That's why when the CDC has people handling Ebola virus and things like that, they have those full suits. That obviously works, or else nobody would ever test Ebola virus or any other pathogens. They would be taking too high of a risk. Okay, so now we scale it down from there a little bit. What about an N95 respirator mask that's fitted properly with goggles? I don't want to tell the libs too much about this because I don't want them to start mask mandates added to goggle mandates as well. But you can get a 0.03 micron size virus if it's aerosolized and free floating around the air. You can get it in your eye. I don't know what your eyes are actually a great transmission area, unfortunately for us, for all kinds of viruses and things. And then it, of course, can embed itself. So, but I've been reading about this. I think it's really interesting. Cloth masking, though, which if you go back and look at the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, you'll see all these people with cloth masks on. Cloth masks, people still get sick. That's been well established. So now it's a question of it's not highly protective. That is a lie. It is not highly protective. Just have a cloth mask over your mouth is not highly protective. So, or I shouldn't say it is a lie sometimes, but that's not accurate. And let's understand why. There are two bases for transmission of aerosol or a virus like this that's in the environment. One is surface-based, one is aerosolized. You all understand the difference, right? Surface-based is stuff that you touch and the virus lives on it after having been either, touched by someone's finger that, touched their nose or something, or aerosolized virus in the air. But assume for a second that we're not talking about the surface touching, because that's where hand washing comes in. That is nothing. That masking is only minimally effective for that because you won't touch your face as much, they say. But yeah, until something itches under your mask, and then actually you do. So let's live in reality. The cloth mask around your mouth has air going in, as you well know. It is not sealed. It is not fitted. And in fact, the mesh in front of your mouth, the cloth fabric that we're all using for these, something that is less than 1 micron is going to be able, which a virus is going to be able to get through the seams in that. So again, these are all what I'm telling you. These are all facts. This is all established. And there's some very interesting studies specifically from years ago, not politicized, about how dentists always wear masks when they do their dentistry stuff. And they are not any more likely, they're not in a worse position or better position because of the masks, even though they're being constantly exposed to influenza. They tend to have very high rates of antibodies to common infections, which goes to show you that even with the mask wearing, they are getting exposed to viruses, but their body has good defenses against it because their body is constantly being exposed to new aerosolized virus. And that effectively for dentists, the mask wearing thing is really just a custom. There has never been, because it's so cheap and so easy, there's never really been high level peer-reviewed studies of cloth masking for the purposes of preventing disease. And in fact, as I've told you, the CDC has one about influenza, which would be very similar for transmission routes and everything else we see to coronavirus, where they said, we can't really tell you if masking works or doesn't work. So there are some that say it doesn't really mean very much at all. The best argument you can have for it is, for some people in some circumstances, it's not that oppressive, like indoors in a hospital setting. And if it gives you an additional 5 or 10% protection, let's say, maybe that's worth it because you're being so constantly exposed to virus and you're just upping your odds. But for all the rest of us outside, this is all people believe this. For 100 years, everyone's been a little over that. Actually, it was really the late 19th century that medical professionals started wearing masks. And it was really to protect them from actual bodily fluids. Actual fluids, right? It wasn't just aerosolized virus. It was bodily fluids that people were, and as well as spewing their own bodily fluids at somebody else. But it's really that was in some ways more of a politeness thing than a protecting you from virus thing. Now, I know this is all very controversial stuff, but just show me the actual study done of cloth masking proving that it is highly effective against against any virus transmission in the air. Okay, I know I went a little deeper on that than I meant to, but I think it's important to understand that we're all. This is now like an article of faith for people, and no one ever really thinks about this. And it's very politicized. We know it has become very politicized. That said, Trump's like, yeah, sometimes wear a mask. Yeah, fine. I say the same thing. Sometimes wear a mask. All the time? Outside? No. Crazy. Wrong. Not a good idea. What else does the Trumpster need us to do? Well, one is he's saying there's going to be a phase 4 stimulus. Play clip 10.
I support it, but it has to be done properly, and I support actually larger numbers than the Democrats, but it's got to be done properly. We had something where it gave you a disincentive to work last time, and it was still money going to people and helping people, so I was all for that. But we want to create a very great incentive to work. So we're working on that, and I'm sure we'll all come together.
You want the direct payments larger or the uninsurance benefits larger?
I want the money getting to people to be larger so they can spend it. I want the money to get there quickly and in a non-complicated fashion, and they wanted to make it too complicated. Also, it was an incentive not to go to work. You'd make more money if you don't go to work. That's not what the country's all about. And people didn't want that. They wanted to go to work, but it didn't make sense because they make more money if they didn't. And we had some of that, and so we don't want to have that. We want to have people get out, and we want to create a tremendous incentive for people to want to go back to work.
Now, you would think everybody would be on board for this. Democrats, they're now at the point where open sabotage of the economy is in their interests. Open sabotage. I mean, they'll come up with some reason, oh, not enough for workers, or oh, whatever it is. They will do everything in their power to make sure there is no economic recovery. We all understand why. This is obvious. What I'm telling you is obvious, right? But we need to remind ourselves of this because what you see on the TV, you're entering the funhouse mirrorland of Democrat propagandaville. And we're going to be living in it from now until November nonstop. You know, usually propaganda is more effective if it's factually accurate, meaning if the facts included are accurate, or at least some of them are. And also if the person, I mean, this is the fake Tapper maneuver. Be a propagandist 75% of the time, but, 25 or 10% of the time or whatever, do your actual job, do some actual journalism. And then when someone says, wait a second, you're a propagandist. No, look at the real journalism I do. This is what that I think will be abandoned now is what I'm telling you. The 75-25 propaganda actual news gathering that you'll see from the media is about to become, it's all going to be about hashtag resistance and defeat Trump and making sure that the economy is in really bad shape because that's his single biggest point of vulnerability right now. And if he takes that away, then you just have this buffoonish and unimpressive candidate named Joe Biden who's hiding in a basement and thinks he should be president for no apparent good reason.
He wants to defund and abolish police because that's what he's being told to do. He's not making his own decisions. The radical left is doing, they're telling him what to do. He wants to defund and abolish the police. And you see it, what they're doing in Minnesota. Take a look at what they're doing in Minneapolis. Take a look at what's going on. Now, if I wasn't here, Minnesota would have been a disaster because I was very strong. You got to get the guard out. When they finally got the guard out, everything ended.
Joe Biden is going to be a puppet of the left. We have to remember that because that's going to be the narrative that the media does everything they can to fight back against. I know right now you're like, oh, Buck, but everyone's marching in the streets and it's crazy. And they got people doing weird interpretive dances in front of the cops and spitting at them and calling. There's that one video of a protester in New York calling a black police officer a traitor to his race. I mean, there's all this horrible lunatic stuff going on. They're not going to try to make Joe Biden just seem like a normal, moderate guy. That's oh, no, they will. They will. Joe Biden, a statesman. Joe Biden has been in politics for 40 years. And, he's just kind of like, he's a guy. He's there and he's going to do his best to bring together the country. And, he won't tweet about his TV ratings. Yeah, that's right. Joe Biden. Everything will go back to normal, folks. It'll be great. Like the Obama years where there was the weakest economic recovery out of a recession since World War II. The expansion of the war in Afghanistan dramatically for domestic political purposes, the largest loss of U.S. life occurring in Afghanistan while Obama was in office, the anti-war movement disappearing because there are a bunch of frauds on that issue because Obama was loved by the left. And, we have all these things. Oh, yes. And, of course, the riots, racial tensions rising, Ferguson, Baltimore, all that happened. What do we want to get back again? Oh, the disastrous Obamacare implementation, as if this is really better for people. It's just a massive expansion, really, of healthcare welfare through Medicaid. What are we going to hearken back to? What are we going to say was great? Yeah, no, we're not. But they're going to fight so hard. You're going to see it. Just like I predicted, they would say nothing about the virus for a couple of weeks. And then when there's some reopenings happening and there's younger people who are all marching out together getting sick, because the biggest way to spread this disease is a lot of people in close proximity, right? That's actually the single riskiest thing you can do. And people that think, oh, I'm wearing a mask, so it's fine. If mask wearing and social distancing, if mask wearing alone without social distancing were sufficient, why aren't we all back in the office doing everything we need to do? Someone explain this to me, right? Why can't we all go to a movie theater and sit shoulder to shoulder with masks on? Oh, because it's indoors. Okay. What about outdoor movie theaters? 100 of us, masks on. Oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. That's too scary. But the protesters can do what they do. My friends, I'm sick of all the lies. I know you are too, but we have to keep hammering them on this stuff because as long as they get away with it, they'll continue to do it. I also think that we're beginning to see, because they're finally enforcing the laws, now the law enforcement, at least at the federal level, is getting the political backup that it needs to say, no, you're not destroying statues. No more of this madness that has overtaken the country for weeks. Once the Democrats get on defense with this, remember the Black Lives Matter movement before collapsed into a really unimpressive end where everyone just kind of realized, wait a second, people are hating cops. There's more people getting killed in minority majority neighborhoods. What was accomplished by all this? And the answer was nothing. If we keep holding up the mirror to truth here, people will soon figure out that, guess what? This latest movement, which was all supposed to be about George Floyd, this is just the left showing its rage and making everything worse for everybody.